Have you ever used an app and just thought, wow, this just gets me? Or on the flip side, you've wanted to throw your phone across the room because it's so frustrating. Well, it turns out there's a hidden science behind both of those feelings. Today, we're going to dive into the invisible rules that separate the apps you love from the ones that drive you absolutely crazy. And this isn't about flashy graphics or picking the perfect color palette. Nope, this goes deeper. We're talking about a kind of hidden language, a set of principles rooted in psychology that designers use to talk directly to our brains, often without us even realizing it. I mean, this is the big question, right? We've all been there. One app feels like it's reading your mind, just a natural extension of your thoughts. And then the next one feels like you're trying to solve a puzzle in the dark. The answer, well, it all comes down to how well they follow a few fundamental rules. Yeah, it's really the difference between chaos and clarity. You know those frustrating apps? The menus are a total mess and the buttons seem to be playing a game of hide and seek. But the effortless ones? Everything's right where you expect it to be. The navigation is crystal clear. So how do designers pull that off so consistently? So what is the secret sauce? Let's finally pull back the curtain and look at the principles that guide the absolute best digital experiences out there. They're known as the laws of UX. That incredible, effortless feeling you get from a really great app, that is not an accident. It's not just a lucky guess by the designer. It is totally intentional, and it's built by applying scientific principles about how our minds are actually wired. And here they are, the laws of UX. Honestly, you can think of them as a collection of cheat codes for design, all based on decades of psychology research. They give designers this amazing framework for understanding how we, the users, see, think, and act whenever we're looking at a screen. So what's the point of all this? Well, these laws have a few key goals. First, they want to reduce something called cognitive load, which is really just a fancy way of saying how hard your brain has to work. They also aim to make interfaces so intuitive that they just feel right. And the end game? Making our digital lives just a little bit easier and, more enjoyable. All right, let's get our hands dirty. It's time to open up the designer's toolkit and look at some of the most powerful and most common laws that are being used every single day. First up, we have Fitts Law. Now, this one sounds super simple, but oh man, is it powerful. It just says that the bigger and closer a target is, the faster you can click on it. This applies to literally everything, from a big Add to Cart button to that tiny little X to close a pop-up ad. So how do you use it? Well, it's pretty straightforward. If an action is important, like buy now or send message, you make that button big, and you put it where it's easy to get to. Just think about where your thumb naturally rests on your phone screen. That's prime real estate, all thanks to Fitts Law. Next up is Hick's Law. You know that feeling when you're staring at a giant restaurant menu and your brain just kind of short circuits? That's Hick's Law in action. It says that for every extra option you add, you increase the time it takes for a person to make a decision. Too many choices leads to what they call analysis paralysis. So how do you fight that? Well, designers simplify. They declutter. Instead of throwing 20 different icons at you all at once, they prioritize the most important, most used options first. They guide you to a quicker, less stressful choice by hiding the stuff you probably don't need right away. Jakob's Law. This one is all about meeting expectations. See, we users spend most of our time on other websites and apps, so we've built up these mental models of how things are supposed to work. We expect the shopping cart in the top right, the company logo in the top left. By following those conventions, a new site can feel instantly familiar. It's simple. Don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. And that brings us to a little bit of brain science with Miller's Law. Turns out, our short-term memory is, well, it's kind of limited. On average, we can only hold about 7 pieces of information in our heads at one time. This is exactly why phone numbers are broken up into smaller chunks. And for designers, it means you got to keep your lists and navigation menus short and sweet. Then you've got the Gestalt principles. This is a whole family of laws about how our brains are hardwired to find patterns automatically. For example, the law of proximity means we just assume that things placed close together are related. And the law of similarity means we group things that look alike, like making all clickable links the same color of blue. Designers use these little visual tricks to build a mental map for you without you even having to think. Okay, this next one is a real mind bender. It's called Tesler's law, and it states that every single process has a certain amount of complexity that you just can't get rid of. It's unavoidable. So a designer's job isn't to eliminate it, but to absorb it, to handle all that messy stuff on the back end so the user doesn't have to. A truly great design makes something incredibly complex feel incredibly simple. All right, enough with the theory, right? Let's see how these laws actually show up in the real world. Because once you know what to look for, I promise you are going to start seeing them everywhere, in all the apps you use every single day. Just take a look. Ever notice how that shopping cart icon is pretty much always in the same place? Bam, that's Jakob's law of familiarity. Or how about the way Netflix organizes shows into those neat, browsable rows? That's the law of proximity, grouping similar things. And Hick's law, simplifying your choice to one category at a time. And of course, when you finally go to buy something on your phone, that big, easy-to-tap Buy Now button, that's pure Fitz's law, making the most important action the easiest one to perform. They all work together. So the big takeaway here is that these laws aren't just academic ideas to talk about. They are a practical roadmap, a blueprint. Anyone who wants to build something that people genuinely love to use has to understand this stuff. So here's how it all comes together in practice. It always starts with understanding your user. From there, you apply the laws. You simplify choices, you stay consistent with what people already know, and you group related items together logically. But maybe most importantly, you have to test, and test again with real people to make sure it all actually works the way you think it does. And that quote really says it all, doesn't it? The best designs do the hard work so that we, the users, don't have to. They take on all the messy, inherent complexity of a system and present us with an experience that feels simple, intuitive, and maybe even a little bit delightful. So the next time an app just feels right, you'll know. It wasn't magic and it wasn't luck. It was science.